My name is Allie Poole. I'm a speech language pathologist and I work on the assistive technology team. When I think of inclusivity, I think of everyone being given the chance to be involved, everyone being given the chance to be included, regardless of their differences, regardless of what their communication might look like. I help campuses remove barriers for our students and their families by coming out and troubleshooting and problem solving some of the significant barriers some of our students experience. Communication is something that we take for granted, the ability to just verbally speak our thoughts and our ideas. And for some people, that does not come naturally. There are different modes of communication that a student or an individual could use to communicate with others. And even though that looks different, it can still be just as effective and just as functional for that family and for that student. For example, a student might communicate using picture symbols if they're not able to verbally communicate. And that could be something low tech, or that could be something like a communication device. If I'm trying to ask you for help and you can't understand me because I'm having a hard time articulating my words, it would be very powerful for me to be able to have a tool in place where I could tell you, help, I need help. And removing those barriers allow our students to be involved in the classroom, to get their wants and needs met, to answer questions, to ask questions, and make friends. A professional experience that makes me smile every time I think of it, that was an excellent example of inclusion, would have been prom last year. I had the opportunity to go to prom with Plano Senior High students. We had a group of special education staff that was available to go with our students that might find an environment like that challenging, but however, we're still very excited to go. So the music might have been a little too loud, but they still wanted to get out there and dance. So we brought noise canceling headphones. Staff was available to help them find places to go take breaks. They were out on the dance floor getting to dance. And for the students that had communication devices, we had those ready for them so they could tell us what they needed in that moment, or to ask a peer to dance with them. And we were able to talk about that and go home and share that with the families. Even for our students that are communicating in a different way, they were very much involved, very excited, and just had the time of their lives. We have peer assistants in some of our special education classrooms that come in, so they do have a lot of friends, even if they're not in those gen ed classes all day long. They're still very much involved with the gen ed population inclusivity. And so they got to see their actual friends at prom and they got to dance with them. And I mean, they were out on the dance floor. We had 5 or 6 students that we didn't think were going to make it the whole night. We had to drag them off the dance floor, and they talked about it for weeks. So it was wonderful. We practiced using their devices, finding the words they would need to ask someone to dance, and it was just wonderful. That everybody can communicate. Appearances, what you might assume about a person when you first see them, could be completely the opposite. We have students that can carry on conversations, and even though they're not verbally communicating with you, they can definitely share their wants, their likes, their hopes, their dreams. And just because they're using a different mode of communication, that does not make it less. I sought out this role because I wanted to help others. And in the middle of my education, I actually had a son who did not speak. And when he did begin speaking, none of us could understand him. And it was scary, it was frustrating because he definitely knew what he wanted to say, and it was very impactful to my life. At home, it was impactful to his teachers at school because they were frustrated. And finding different modes for him to communicate was invaluable. And my heart goes out to people that face those barriers, but there's solutions. It's just a matter of finding them, seeing what works, and then getting to experience the joy of those messages being communicated. It's life-changing for everyone involved, the family and the school, and even more importantly, the student.